Good day, everyone. Today, I will be discussing bureaucracy and bureaucratization. It is a tall concept that often have a negative connotation but are essential for managing large organizations effectively. When we hear the word bureaucracy, we often think about slow government processes, long lines at offices, and files of paperwork. Many people viewed it is an inefficient, overly complicated, and frustrating. However, sociologists define bureaucracy simply as a structure designed to help large organization function in an organized and rational way. What is bureaucratization? It is a process of making organization more systematic, efficient, and structured. As organizations grow in a size, complexity, they need a better coordination to function properly. This process is essential for businesses, government, offices, schools, and even hospitals to ensure smooth operation. Sociologist Max Weber identified several key characteristics that make a bureaucracy effective. And number one of this is the clear hierarchical of power. Each person has a defined role, function, and responsibilities, and there is a structured chain of command. For example, in a workplace, there is the boss who command, and there is the workers who work to achieve the command. Another example, in a school, the principal is the top, followed by the department heads, teachers, and then the student. Each role has a specific responsibilities to ensure smooth management. Number two is the decision making based on technical knowledge or expertise. Decisions should be made based on knowledge and skills rather than personal relationships. And for example, in this is the hospital, doctor make a medical decision based on their expertise, not because of personal favors or friendships. Number three is the objective evaluation. Employees should be judged based on their qualifications and performance. One of the best example in this is in the companies, employees are promoted based on their work performance and not in favoritism. Last is the fair promotion system. Career growth should be based on merit, ensuring that competent individuals advance. Example in this, and in government offices, promotion are often based on civil service exams and years of service rather than personal connection. While many people associate bureaucracy with slow government processes, history shows that bureaucratic systems were essential in building and maintaining great civilizations. According to Alfred Weber, every major civilization began with a structured bureaucracy that shaped people's lives. According to Henry Jacobi, in his book The Bureaucratization of the World, gives us several examples of how ancient societies used bureaucratic systems to organize their economies, communication, and record keeping. Number one in this is the ancient Egypt and Babylon, and the civilizations, priests and scribes have power because they control religious knowledge and daily life. Example, in Egypt, an organized system of official managed large-scale irrigation projects to support agriculture. These officials also maintain detailed records of taxes and land ownerships. The Incas had a highly organized bureaucracy to manage agriculture, construction, and communication. Developed an extensive network of suspension bridges to improve transportation and use a unique record-keeping system. In China and India, the civilization also relied on bureaucracies to maintain order and coordinate large projects. In China, the government used a system of civil service exams to select qualified officials, ensuring that skilled individuals run the administration. record keeping and census in ancient Great Egypt. Egypt has a centralized record office where officials collected data on citizens and their living conditions. The government conducted a periodic censuses to track the population and ensure fair taxation, keeping an inventory of the entire country. This example shows that bureaucracy was not just a rules and paperwork. It played a crucial role in organizing society, managing resources, and maintaining stability. Without a strong bureaucratic system, many of the civilizations would not have been able to build a large cities, develop economies, or maintain order.
Let's talk about how industries came into existence. As societies advanced, they developed new types of businesses to meet people's needs. To ensure that these industries produced enough goods and maintained good quality, governments stepped in to regulate them. Governments introduced rules to control how much workers were paid and how much products could be sold. These measures aim to keep economy stable. If these rules weren't followed, strict penalties were involved. To ensure that these regulations were followed, governments created new departments. These departments were responsible for inspecting businesses and supervising their activities to make sure they complied with the rules. From this development, we see that the formation of governments and the growth of bureaucracies are closely linked. As societies organized themselves, they needed structured administrative systems to manage various functions effectively. In 1832, Alexis de Tocqueville, a French political thinker, studied American democracy. He observed that as traditional institutions declined and people focused more on their personal affairs, governments took on more control over economic and social functions. De Tocqueville noted that when people became indifferent to public affairs, it leads to government taking over more responsibilities. This shift results in administrations managing most aspects of society, reducing individual participation. Similarly, Karl Marx observed that regardless of changes in government form, administrative bodies continued to accumulate more functions and responsibilities over time.
Not everyone was in favor for the rise of bureaucracy, just like in Russia. The emergence of Russian Revolution in 1917, we all know that the system of governance that they have is monarch, which is led by king or queens, but they call their leader as Tsar, Tsar. This revolution was then to eliminate bureaucratic administration kasi nadiri sira nga ang decision for everything in the society or organization was from adto sa labaw, making people believe that the new system will still help to organize society even without the presence of bureaucracy. So this new system is the so-called socialist government. This leads to the prediction of Vladimir Lenin, a politician, that the bureaucracy in Russia will be totally vanished because everyone could participate to govern the state, or everyone could have a part in a government. Sabi pa niya, bisan sinunala pwede umapi. It's like waray na qualifications or standard na ginsusunod or na kailangan para maging leader. Unlike sa dating system which is an monarch, na kailangan mag-lead talaga sini is in line with family gihapon by blood or the so-called hereditary right. But this vision of Lenin never came true kasi mas nag-increase ang number of employed people in the administration office in Russia from approximately 1 million people to almost 2.5 million by the year 1921 and kept growing until nag-disclose or nag-collapse nalaan Soviet Union in 1990s. Soviet Union was the first country to form a government based on the system known as communism. It was based on Marxist socialism. Meanwhile, in developing countries, the bureaucratic administration will remain as long as it has a stable and efficient taxation system. So, in here, bureaucracy and taxation is highly interdependent to each other. Why? According to Lockwood 1976, the efficiency of the bureaucracy depends upon the effectiveness of its taxation system, and the effectiveness of the taxation system depends of the efficiency of the bureaucratic apparatus. So, maintain and flow ang pamamalakad sa bureaucracy if ang taxation is sustainable enough to support the administration. But if the taxation system fails to support for the bureaucracy in developing countries, di nasulod ang mga negative actions na ginhihimo sa mga members of the bureaucratic organizations. They will rely on graft and corruption to supplement their income. So pag diri na nasusunod ang expected income sa mga members nga adto sa siton nga organization, syempre man kukuan sira kwarta nga tikang sa mga taxes para la tuloy-tuloy lagi hapon an pagsulod sa kwarta sa kanara mga bulsa. Kaya waray masyado progress kay naasa naman laliwat sa kwarta ang mga miyembro nga sa organisasyon sa kwarta sa taong bayan. This is why the concept of white collar crime is not applicable to many of this society. So, an white collar crime is a non-violence crime, but it involves deceit to avoid losing money or property or to gain personal businesses advantages. So, ini nga white collar crime is there is siya shadow visible sa society kay nano pa man an igho-hold ng mga property or kwarta kung gin-corrupt naman sa mga tao na may position kay very sigurista sira pag abot sa kwarta nira kay karog nira sira la magyaman sa kanralaan kwarta na dapat ginpapabor nira iton para sa kadam-an. So, in conclusion, Russian Revolution failed to eliminate bureaucracy, while the bureaucracy in the developing countries was sustained because of the corruption as the coping mechanism for the dysfunction of taxation system.
A stable taxation system it is essential for the promoting economic development. It is
provide predictable and stable source of the revenue for the governments, enabling them to invest in essential public services and infrastructure. Examples, the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom tax system is considered relatively stable. While tax rates and thresholds can change, these changes are typically announced in advance and implemented to gradually giving people and businesses time to adjust. This stability helps to create a predictable environment for investment and economic growth. The bureaucratic power, the bureaucracy can accumulate significant resources and power, which can be vital for an industrial operation, but also raises concern about the public accountability. The concentration of power among a select few can lead to undemocratic practices and determine the compatibility of bureaucracy with democracy. The difference between bureaucracy and democracy, the bureaucracy, it is focuses on efficiency and order but can be less responsive to the public. While democracy, it is emphasizes citizens' participation and accountability but can be slower and more complex in decision making. Now, let's consider the examples of Egypt's bureaucracies during the Mubarak regime. The regime's bureaucracy was characterized by a high degree of centralization and concentration of power. The bureaucracy was responsible for the providing essential public services such as the enforcement and administrative support for the businesses. However, the bureaucracy was also marked by corruption, nepotism, and the lack of transparency. And they might support for the coup d'etat to preserve the democratic framework they depends on. When we say coup d'etat, it is sudden and often violent overthrow of the government, typically by a small group of individuals or a military faction. The term of coup d'etat in French meaning stroke of state or blow of the state. And Robert Michael's term iron law of oligarchy. The meaning of iron law of oligarchy is that all organizations, even those that start out with democratic ideals, will rule and the small elite group. And the oligarchy, when we say oligarchy is the group of people having control in the country or organization and the institution.
Bureaucracies are everywhere. They manage government, businesses, and institutions, playing a crucial role in keeping society organized. But despite of their power, they lack of direct accountability to the public. Bureaucracy is a structured administrative system that makes policies, allocates resources, and enforces rules. While these systems are essential for efficiency, they also raise concern about power concentration, corruption, and lack of responsiveness to the people. While bureaucracy helps to maintain order, its influence also creates tension, especially in democratic society. Today, we will explore how bureaucracy operates, particularly in developing nations. Fred Riggs found out that in developing countries, government workers often earn much more than most people. They form a strong connection to keep their job. They depend this position for money and status, so they resist change that can put them at risk. In some cases, they even support military takeovers to stay in power. So this raises a question: can bureaucracy and democracy coexist? The Iron Law of Oligarchy by Robert Michels said that in big organization, power always ends up in the hands of few people, even though democracy is supposed to share power. Later, Lepsitro and Kuhlman argues that if there is openness and public oversight, bureaucracy can still work in a democratic way. But even with this effort, bureaucracy remains strict and structured, making it hard for regular people to have a real influence. John Mayer explained that bureaucracy not only exists in government, but also in schools, universities, and businesses. As these organizations grow, they develop a structured system that can handle complexity. However, this expansion restricts individual freedom by adding more rule, making it harder for people to influence decisions that affects them. Festier and Serjani argues that strict bureaucratic rules limit creativity and decision-making. Bertram Gross warned about friendly fascism, where control happens through data collection rather than force. Bureaucracies waste human potential because fixed rules prevent innovation. Heckscher said that bureaucracies resist change. Prioritizing stability over adaptability can lead to inefficiency. Otto Henze explained that bureaucracy has existed for centuries because society needs organized administration, and attempts at self-governance have failed. And according to Joseph Schumpeter, that's cited by Jacobi, bureaucracy keeps growing regardless of the political system. Even in democracy, bureaucracy expands to manage increasing complexity. In summary, bureaucracy helps maintain stability and efficiency but also limits individual freedom, innovation, and adaptability. It concentrates power and can be resistant to change. The challenge is to make it more democratic, transparent, and responsive. The goal is not eliminating bureaucracy. Instead, we should focus on reforming it to serve the people rather than control them.